Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and today I am driving a 1994 Toyota Camry Wagon. Up front is a 2.2 liter inline 4, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Camry Wagon for two reasons. First of all, I haven't reviewed this generation of Camry on the channel before. This has been my white whale. My best friend growing up had the sedan version, but this generation of Camry, I've been trying to find one to review forever and ever and ever, so I'm excited to do that. The second reason is the fact that this is the Wagon variant, and there's a lot that goes into that makes this car very special. It's a somewhat rare version of the Camry, so let's dive into it here today. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 2.2 liter inline 4. Well, there were two engines offered here. This, of course, was the base engine. However, you could get it with a 3-liter V6. This is the 5SFE, which was also, I believe, in the, I want to say 6th generation Celica? One of the Celicas. And of course, some Japanese domestic market vehicles. It's a decently reliable engine. What you might have to look out for is the transmission. I know a couple of friends that have had transmissions go out on this generation of Camry, but honestly, the 4-speed, it's doing its job here today. I don't mind it that much. You just might want to keep an eye on it. Last but not least, of course, the Camry Wagon is front-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive the Camry? Well, as almost every other Camry is, it's a very anonymous driving experience. It's smooth enough. There are some rattles and shakes at idle. However, of course, this car is over 30 years old, so there's going to be some rattles and shakes, but it's easy to operate. It's easy to drive. The owner, when he handed me the keys, said, "It's a Camry. You turn it on and you go." And that's been the status quo for Camry for the last 31 years. So it works. Like, that's the best thing. This car just simply works, and it keeps working until it doesn't, and I like that a lot. Visibility is also pretty good. The Wagon back lacks a little bit of visibility, but that's okay, and overall, I like it a lot. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 analog gauges. Off to the left is my coolant temperature and tachometer, and off to the right is my speedometer and fuel. It does say Camry on the steering wheel. We also get an airbag, which was pretty new for 94. And off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, our power mirror switch, as well as our gauge dimmer switch, and a little cubby down below. Moving on to the door, we have the latch to get in and out, power locks, and power windows. And moving into the center, we get a digital clock, hazard switch, 2 climate vents, and our climate controls. Temperature off to the left, fan speed in the center, where to send it off to the right, with of course AC and defrost to the far right. Then we have an aftermarket radio. Any radio from the 90s isn't really going to keep up with modern tech, so it's been swapped out, as well as we do have a 12-volt outlet. We get a little pull-out cubby and cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Camry Wagon, and although it fails, these cup holders are quite pathetic. This was also the era where not every car even had cup holders at all, so it's definitely nice to see, although it doesn't pass my silly little test. Then we have the shifter. We do have our transmission modes down below for power and normal, but otherwise very parts bin Toyota shifter I've come to know and love over the last 31 years. Handbrake in the center, and we do get a little center console. The seats are cloth, and I could not be happier. I love 90s cloth. I love the feeling of them, how soft they are, how comfortable they are, how warm they are, especially here. Starting to become the winter here in Chicago, and I like being all nice and cozy, and the seats definitely help that. Very, very nostalgic, and they have held up pretty well. You know, cloth seats tend to have held up a little bit better from the 90s. They just didn't rip as much. Although leather looks nicer from new, I think cloth is better for longevity. However, speaking of seats, we have another row and maybe another row of seating, so let's go do some backseat reviews. All right, so we're in the back of the 1994 Toyota Camry Wagon, and a couple of things to note. First of all, knee room isn't fantastic. It's not the worst in the world. My knees actually aren't hitting the seat in front of me, but it's a little bit tighter than you might have found in the Avalon of the era. We do get a center console, just kind of a cushy brick that comes down. We do get an ashtray back here, but no climate vents. So obviously, in the 90s, smoking a dart was more important than maintaining a healthy temperature in a vehicle. 90s! Anyway, headroom is great because you do have this long roof. A huge benefit of wagons is that they don't really have to start coming back down until the very back of the car. So you have this continuously high roof line all the way back, where the sedan, probably right about here, would start coming down a little bit, and it might cut into your headroom. I'm 5'11", not a small guy. I fit in here great. If you're over 6 foot, you might start to struggle, but that's, kind of part of the game. Now, we're not done with seating. Let's hop into the very back. All right, so we're on the back of the Toyota Camry LE wagon. Big handle right up in there, and you do get a pretty sizable trunk space. Now, you can come around the side here. Show this real quick. You can pull this up and then pull this down, and if you pull the headrest out, you can lay this all completely flat, which is very, very nice. So tons of loading space. A previous owner actually used to rebuild vintage guitars and used it for that. But the cool thing that you'll see in here are these panels. So you can flip this up, and that will lock in place, and then you flip this over, and now you have a rear-facing third row in the Camry. So I can step in here and actually sit, and I can pull this down because Toyota actually gives you a handle to get in and out. Unlike Ford of this era, the Ford Taurus did not have an interior handle for the third row. So I actually get my own handle, and I can sit back here and let myself back out if need be. Now, the struts on the rear trunk were just replaced, so it took a lot of muscle to do that. But you actually got a rear-facing fold-up third row in the back of the Camry. So awesome. This is something that you don't see anymore, and I'm going to talk about it later. The Camry was kind of a showing of things in the era. This is a very 90s car. A 2000s Camry is a very 2000s car. A 2025 Camry is a very 2025 car. So you see this, like, this is so 90s. This experience of having a rear-facing third row is just absolutely wonderful. Like I said, you get this like little trigger in here, and you can pop it up like that to then make your escape. But let's talk about the looks. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I do think that the wagon looks a little bit odd. However, that's okay. I overall like the look of this generation of Camry. This generation of Camry, when it was originally designed, was supposed to be super, super boxy. However, with Lexus coming out, they wanted to differentiate them a little bit, and so the Toyota actually got a more modern, curvy look, and this is actually what set the tone going into the 2000s, so that was definitely the right call from Toyota. This is also one of 3 body styles you could have gotten the Toyota Camry in. So there was the sedan, of course, there was the wagon like this, and the ever elusive coupe. You could get a Camry coupe back in the early 90s, which was quite the little rocket with the 3-liter V6. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a 3rd generation Toyota Camry wagon? Well, this has been nothing short of amazing. I won't get too into it in this particular review, but every single day of my freshman year of high school, I was driven home in a sedan 1995 Toyota Camry. I love this body style. I love this era, and just sitting in here is very, very nostalgic for me. It brings me back to those innocent days of my freshman year of high school. I had no idea what was going on. My best friend and neighbor would drive me home from school every day, and so a lot of that nostalgia is ringing back. The thing that sticks out the most to me about this Camry and this generation of Camry is the fact that the Camry has always been indicative of the times, or at least indicative of the automotive industry at the time. Meaning, you could get this car in coupe, sedan, or of course, wagon. Because you used to be able to get cars in coupe, sedans, and wagon. You could get this car in a manual because you could get other cars at the time in manual. Moving onward, when Camry did the TRD, it was very in for the era that car companies were doing sporty trim levels of regular cars. Audi had the S line. Ford had the ST line. So Toyota did a TRD. The Camry has always been a barometer of what was going on in the era. And back in the 90s, you had so much choice when it came to your car. If you were a mom, you could get a Camry that was a 3-row. If you were a cool, hip, single guy living downtown, buy the coupe and manual. If you're a regional manager or sous chef, go get the 4-door, something a little bit more respectable looking. They had a Camry for you, and you could go into the dealership and make these decisions. Now, what do you pick? Wheels? Color? They only offer the Camry in hybrid, and it's still a fantastic car, but you don't have those lifestyle options that these cars once had. You can't buy a coupe Camry. You can't even buy a wagon Camry. You can't even really buy a wagon from Toyota, except I guess if you count the Crown Signia as basically a station wagon. But the long roofs are dead. This is when people had a choice. When they walked into the dealership, you could find a vehicle that fit your lifestyle. You didn't have to make your lifestyle fit whatever car you have a $400 a month note on. And saying $400 a month here in 2025 is rather generous. I think the average car payment is $700 or $800 a month. So that's what I like about this car. It being the wagon. And the fact that they offered a wagon, coupe, and sedan all next to each other is just something so awesome. Now looking back from 2025. And sure, maybe I have rose-colored glasses on. Maybe I have a lot of nostalgia coursing through my veins during this review. That's honestly how I feel. I don't want to sound like the guy that says, oh, they used to make them always better. But at least back in the day, you had more choice and you had more options. And that's what the Camry here is telling me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Keegan for letting me borrow his Camry wagon and finally checking this generation of Camry off my list. He's absolutely wonderful. I've reviewed so many cars from him in the past. Just a wonderful, thoughtful person, and I appreciate everything that he does for me and those around him. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.